Hello everyone, welcome back to online lecture series on applied thermodynamics. Today we are beginning a new chapter, that is IC engine performance and emissions. So let's begin. Okay, first we can visit the syllabus here. So that is the fifth chapter, IC engine performance and emission. We have completed the seventh unit, that is reciprocating compressors, centrifugal compressors and axial flow compressors. So we will begin with measurement of indicated power, brake power, friction power, and then we will move forward with emissions. So let's begin. First we will go through some basic definitions. First is brake power. The power developed by an engine at the output shaft is known as brake power. So it is about the final power which is available at the output shaft, that is developed by the engine, and it is given by the standard formula brake power is equal to 2 pi nt, where n is revolutions per second and t is torque in Newton per meter. So that is the brake power, and if this rotations are taken per minute, then we need to divide it by 60 to keep the units in normal kilowatt. So here the next is brake thermal efficiency. So as we all know that the efficiency is nothing but output divided by input. So in such case, our output here, based if as we are defining the efficiency in terms of brake power, the output will be taken as brake power, and on the denominator we have the energy which is given by the fuel. So here the input is mf into cv. Now mf is the mass flow rate of fuel and cv is known as calorific value. That is, calorific value is by burning of 1 kg of fuel, how much thermal energy is liberated or how much heat energy is liberated. So this will give us the heat input, or the input to the engine is mf into cv, and output here is brake power, and on that basis we are defining the brake thermal efficiency, which is equal to brake power divided by mf into cv. Now the next is specific fuel consumption. We have already studied this in our basic subjects. So specific fuel consumption is a ratio with numerator being fuel consumed in grams per hour divided by horsepower developed. So for the meaning of specific fuel consumption is for given development of power, how much fuel is needed, that is known as specific fuel consumption. And the next one is brake specific fuel consumption. So it is determined on basis of brake output of the engine. So it is quite simple. If we look at this basic definition, then in specific fuel consumption we are having fuel consumed in grams per hour divided by horsepower being developed. So instead of simple horsepower we can put it as a brake power. So here we will have brake power. And so this is all about the basic definitions. Now we will discuss about the engine norms. We will discuss about emission norms. So emission is the flue gases which are being liberated from the exhaust of any automobile. So here there are always some rules and regulations about the emissions given by vehicle. So let's discuss about this. There are maximum prescribed level of carbon monoxide, hydrocarbons and NOx. NOx means various forms of nitrogen oxides set by government, which a vehicle is permitted to emit from the exhaust. So there are some maximum limit which is given, which is mentioned by the government, that beyond this level your vehicle should not emit these gases. So all the vehicle manufacturers are required to ensure that their vehicles don't exceed the permissible limits. Now there are two kinds of norms: Euro norms and second is Indian norms. Euro norms means the norms which is prescribed by the European countries. So here the permissible emission levels for both petrol and diesel vehicles by European countries, and it was implemented from 1992. So it is just a matter of 30 years ago when these norms were implemented. And now let us discuss about Indian norms. So here, implemented with effect from 1992. So however, as per the Supreme Court ruling, EU norms were implemented in Delhi from 1st June 1999 as noticed by Government of India through motor vehicle regulations. So Euro norms were implemented from 1st June 1999, and these norms were known as India 2000, that is Bharat 1 norms, and these norms were extended to all motor subsequents. Now this looks very basic and informative content. That's why I have covered very little portion of these norms. So what you can do is maybe in your reference books as well as textbooks you will get more details about these norms, but that should not be discussed here because it is quite easy to understand and you can do it by yourself also. So this is just a glimpse of norms. You can go through the reference books for much more details. Now we will be discussing about more important topic, that is heat balance sheet. So heat balance sheet is actually a tabular representation of various forms of heat expenditures and the supply of heat, and we will understand this in detail. So here there are few components that we will be discussing one by one. First component is total or gross heat applied, gross heat supplied. So we were discussing this in our definition of brake thermal efficiency, that in denominator we have the supply of heat, that is Q, which is equal to given by mf dot into Cv of fuel. If you recall, when we put a dot above any letter or unit letter here, then it becomes the flow rate or time rate of the same quantity. So this is the mass flow rate that we have into Cv of fuel. So mass flow rate is in kg per minute, and Cv of fuel is kilojoule per kg, and this is applicable to solid fuels. So here this is in kg per minute and Cv of fuel is in kilojoule per kg. So we can cancel this kg. So final answer here will be in kilojoule per minute. Or let us say that we are having a gaseous fuel, then mass flow rate will be given in meter cube per minute. Mass flow rate is given in meter cube per minute, and Cv of fuel is given in kilojoule per meter cube. So this will be in, again we will get a result in form of kilojoule per minute. Now the next is heat expenditures. So here in section A we have discussed about the available energy, not in terms of pure thermodynamics, but the energy which is being supplied by the fuel. So now we will be discussing about heat expenditures. So there are few subsections here, A, B, C and D. So all of them are heat expenditures. First is heat which is equivalent to brake power. That is the power which is available at the output shaft. Then we have heat carried away by the jacket cooling water. So this is necessary for cooling of engine. So water jackets are provided around the engine to cool them, and this will essentially take away some heat of the engine. So the heat carried away by jacket cooling water is given by the standard formula mCp delta T, that is mW into CPW into T2 minus T1, that is final water temperature minus initial water temperature. So we have calculated the heat equivalent to brake power. Then we calculate the heat which is taken away by jacket cooling water, and then we have heat carried away by the exhaust gases. So as you know that exhaust gases are not at the environmental temperature, so they are at higher temperature, and that heat is not useful to us. So that is also lost into the atmosphere, that is given by me dot Cpe into Te minus Ta. So here unlike final minus initial temperature, here we are having exhaust gas temperature minus atmospheric temperature. So this will provide us heat carried away by the exhaust gases. And once we calculate A, B and C, there is some portion which is not calculated by standard formulas, that is the heat accounted for. Which is given by Q minus of the first three components A, B and C. Heat unaccounted for is Q minus the first three. Now let's go into detail of each component, sub component here. First was heat equivalent to break power. So if the break power is in kilowatt, that is kilojoule per second, then we need to multiply it by 60 to convert it into kilojoule per minute. Now why it is necessary here to convert it into kilojoule per minute? Because if you recall, our heat supply was in kilojoule per minute. So because of that only we need to multiply it with 60 to get it in kilojoule per minute. Now second was heat carried away by the jacket cooling water, which again the formula we all know, mw cpw T2 minus T1, where mw is in the rate form. So mw dot is mass of jacket cooling water in kilogram per minute. So here we don't need a conversion because the fuel flow rate, the cooling water flow rate itself is in kilogram per minute. Then the next is CPW, which is specific heat of water, which is given by 4.186 kilojoule per kg Kelvin, and T2 minus T1 is rise in the temperature of cooling water in degree Celsius or Kelvin. As it is a temperature difference, it doesn't make any difference that which unit we are using, if whether it is degree Celsius or Kelvin. Now the next is the heat supplied, the heat carried away by the exhaust gases. We know this formula, me dot into Cpe into Te minus Ta. So here the task here is in calculation of Me dot, which is mass of exhaust gases, which is kilogram per minute. So there are two ways that we can calculate the mass of exhaust gases. First is mass of air plus mass of fuel. Let me remind you, everything is in rate form here. Or the second way to calculate is air fuel ratio plus 1 into mf dot. So as you know, if we simplify this, then we will arrive to this equation only, that is m air plus mf. Now the next is CPE, which is specific heat of exhaust gases, that is 1 in kilojoule per kg Kelvin, and then TE is temperature of exhaust gases in degree Celsius or Kelvin, and TA is temperature of ambient air or test room in degree Celsius or Kelvin. Now this is the heat balance sheet in tabular form. So here we have this kind of columns. First column is particulars, second is its quantity in kilojoule per minute, and then we have the percentage. So here in section A we have total or gross heat supplied. So that is Q, and a percentage are 100 because there is no breakup of heat supplied, because we are getting heat only from fuel, nowhere else. Now the second table which you can see here is about particulars, has heat expenditures. So as we have discussed all these three subsections A, B and C and D, so all of them are written over here, A, B, C, D, so in kilojoule per minute, and we are calculating the percentages. So how these percentages are calculated? So A is in the numerator, that is heat equivalent to break power, divided by total or gross heat supplied, that is Q, into 100. then B divided by Q into 100, then C divided by Q into 100, and D divided by Q into 100. So what does this percentage does? That it gives us idea about the contribution of each heat component towards using this total heat supply, and it is necessary that the summation of all contributions should become 100 at the end. So that is all about the heat balance sheet. And now we will move forward with our next topic, that is fuel consumption measurement. So this is a new topic. And there are two ways to measure the fuel. First is volumetric type measurement, and second is gravimetric fuel flow measurement. There are four methods for volumetric type. First is Biret's method, second is automatic Biret's flow meter, third is 4-piston flow meter, and third is 4-piston flow meter, and fourth is turbine flow meter. Now the second category here is gravimetric fuel flow measurement, and there are two types. First is actual weighing of fuel consumed, and second category is 4 orifice flow meters. So we will be discussing few of them in this chapter. First we are going to discuss about automatic volume fuel flow measuring system. So there are no three different arrangements. It is only a single arrangement shown with other two cases. So here we are having this as a measuring value. So this is the main measuring volume that we have. And if you see, there is a upper measuring level that is over here. This is the upper measuring level and this is the lower measuring level. Here the upper measuring level is having two inclined segments here, as you can see 6 and 7. The sixth one here is light source here, and here there is a photocell. And similarly, if you see the lower measurement level here also, the sixth number is a light source over here and a photocell over here, like this. So the measuring part is only up to this. Apart from this, here we are having a magnetic valve which is at the bottom, the third number. The fuel enters here and fuel leaves here. So that is the entry, and here is the exit towards the engine. Apart from this, here we are having axis. This is the axis of this device. We are currently at automatic volumetric fuel flow measurement system. Apart from this, if you see, we are having a equalizer chamber, and towards the right we are having a equalization pipe. And here we are having the air tube. So here what happens, that when we press a start button here, then the magnetic valve allows the fuel to go into the engine. So once this device starts, this fuel level in this measuring volume keeps on decreasing. So the first signal when we start this, a light source is on, which goes into the photocell, which is reflected on the photocell, so that a stopwatch or a timer starts. So this happens at the beginning of the measurement. So a light source will be reflected on the photocell and it will start the timer. And as per the engine requirements, the fuel will keep on decreasing in this measuring volume, and once it reaches the lower measurement level, again this light source, the light from this light source is reflected on this photocell and the timer will stop here. So this measuring volume is fixed as per the device, and because of these two photocells, the timer will calculate the time which was consumed, time which was required for consuming this much of fuel by the engine. Apart from this, one more thing which is important here, that through this inlet there is a equalization pipe which fills up this equalization chamber. So as while this was the level of fuel was reduced in this measuring volume, simultaneously there was a filling up of this equalizer chamber. So if you see carefully the remaining two figures, then as the fuel level keeps on decreasing here, the fuel level in equalization chamber keeps on increasing. Here the measuring volume is empty and the equalization chamber is full. So why this is necessary? Because for further continuation we require fuel in this. This is like a backup tank. So from here fuel will be filled in the measuring volume, so that the next time we can measure the fuel flow rate using the same device. So here the lamps after that automatically switch off, the valve open and the fuel rate is indicated on the meter. So that is about, so we have discussed here about the automatic burette method. So here we have covered the section B. Next we will discuss about 4-piston flow meter and automatic weighing of fuel consumed. That is over here. This is the 4-piston flow meter, and then we will be discussing about automatic weighing machine. So in today's lecture we went through the basic definitions, then emission norms, heat balance sheet, and we began with the fuel consumption measurement, and we studied about the automatic volume fuel flow measurement, that is automatic Burette's flow meter. So that is the end of today's lecture. Thank you for watching this video.